Hi there, and welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to go over a little eclectic collection that I have, another little side project um, I called Mixed Mac Media, because I thought it was just so clever. And that is just that I have a bunch of little side pieces. I have a lot of VHS, I have some DVD, I have some Blu-ray, some SACD, which I'll explain that. I have a beta, I have an 8-track. I have a lot of little stuff. So I kind of thought I'd, collectively put it together and show you in this collection. And I'm going to start in the order of the music, how it would have come out, not necessarily the order in which these items have come out. I didn't know which was the better range. Otherwise, I'd kind of be going back and forth. Whereas I thought if I started with like 1975, 77, etc., it might be better to show and compare you some things. So the first thing that I have, and the earliest that I have in the collection that's not like a documentary touching on something, would be this DVD set on the Midnight Special. Midnight Special was a great show that came out in the 70s, pre-MTV era. And it was just I started in 72, which I didn't even know. And it was just an idea to get, musicians, pop music was so popular and popular music, get musicians on TV. There was kind of a lull between, the full breakout of the Beatles and the Elvis on the Ed Sullivan. I know we still had things really showcasing the Doors and plenty of stuff going on in the 60s, but there's just a little lull. And Midnight Special really brought artists back to the foray, and it started in the early 70s, like I mentioned, 72. So that's um I would say probably from like maybe 68 to 72. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure there was a format. I'm not saying there wasn't, but it just doesn't seem like it was as dominant. And so anyway, Midnight Special had a lot of acts on, Fleetwood Mac being one of them. This is a little insert. Unfortunately, no pictures of Fleetwood Mac nor any write-up about them. But they had a spot on June 11th, 1976, episode 173. And this set just happens to have over my head. I believe this is the same date they also did Rhiannon, and I want to say something else. I think it was 3 songs they did on the show. But this set, which is a great set, actually, you can just really put it on and have some background noise and movement in the background. But this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 CD set. I mean, it's pretty awesome. And it just ranges over everybody. But unfortunately, they give Fleetwood Mac only 1 song on the set. The funny part is that this set cost me $5, brand new, sealed at Walmart. There is an actual release of the Midnight Special that has, I believe, all the recordings Mac made on that one episode, but it's like $20, $30, which I thought was funny. And it's like, the disc might have like 2 or 3 episodes, but I just happened to be in the store one day and I found this. I don't have that one disc that has all the episodes, but I found this one. I liked everybody else who was on it, so I picked it up. And so that is 1970, what did I say, 76, 75? I forgot, I'm sorry. For Fleetwood Mac, the first earliest thing, 76. So that would be the earliest media, other than records and what else I've shown you that I have for them. Next up, we're going to go to rumors. So the first thing I'm going to show you, and I'll start with like the oldest thing to the newest, as far as that's concerned. So the oldest thing that I have are these 8-track. These are almost out of my age range, so you can call me an old person. I am, but these were kind of shifting out about the time I hit. Well, I don't want to say, but these are kind of being edged out. Vinyl was still big. I want to say the last year a 8-track came out was like 80 something. So they were still being made well through the 70s and 80s, but they were just kind of petering out. And I think cassettes took up form in like maybe, I'm not really sure. I should have had that date down, but I know that these were just kind of going by the wayside and cassettes were beginning to pick up speed. This one has seen better days. This one has some heat damage on the label, which is unfortunate. Luckily, I do have another copy in its sleeve, which isn't much better, but it's nice to have it in its somewhat of its box. I'm not sure that it didn't have a different box, that had Fleetwood Mac on it. I don't really know how they were boxed. I've only ever seen them out or in these little boxes like this. But yeah, you'd stick the cartridge in, much like an Atari, which is also an old thing. It's very similar to a reel-to-reel or a cassette tape. But you'd stick it in, the end would be facing, you'd be looking at it like this, and you'd pop it in, and it would partially be sticking out, and it would play play the music, much like a cassette. So cassettes usually went all the way into a player. If it was a car player, they popped in this way, or cassettes would go in like on the side, and the tape would be underneath. So yeah, it's hard to find cassette player 8-track players. Easy to find them still in vehicles. The last time this was played, my ex-husband had a Rolls Royce, a refurbished and redone, beautifully done Rolls Royce vehicle for a limousine company that we worked for. And he took this and some other stuff, and the sound quality of this 8-track in that car was freaking phenomenal. I mean, 8-tracks, it's funny, they went by the wayside because they were kind of clunky, and we're always looking for something new and something smaller and more compact and better sound. But let me tell you something, man, 8-tracks had very good sound, and most rigs, vehicles or stereo equipment that played them, people were just making better items to play sound better. They weren't, so worried about going a little chinsky. I'm sure there's the cheap rig too in the day, cheap stereos, cheap, 8-track players, cheap reel-to-reel players. I'm confident there was, but it just wasn't quite a thing as much as it is today with, the little turntables that everybody makes fun of, and you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, the sound on this was remarkable, and I couldn't believe it still played. It played like a dream. Like, this is an old piece of media, and the fact that it still played as well as it did was something else. The other thing too is, if I recall, and like I didn't look for the information on this as I ought to have. I did a little research on some of my other stuff, but offhand, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know that it's rumors, but I do know that some of the old 8-tracks also have different mixes of songs. And I should have talked more about that. There's just so much I missed because, like I said, I'm just shooting from the hip usually when I start a video. But vinyl to cassette, cassette to CD, CD to, what do we have now? Streaming. 9 times out of 10, every one of those is going to have a different mix of some kind, not just different sound to your ears because of how it's being presented to you, but it could also just be the same thing, but because the systems are different, they're picking up also on different stuff. But to my knowledge, Rumors on 8-track definitely does have different mixes than Rumors on, say, vinyl or cassette. And if anything is going to be the clearest next best thing, it's going to be Rumors on vinyl. But something I didn't really go over, which I was going to go over here, more pertaining to the next item I'm going to bring up, or pretty soon next up, was that there are several versions of, like, say, Goldust Woman on Rumors and such, which I'll bring up when I talk about it in a second. But one of those mixes could be on this. Who's to say? But if you see a mix on the internet that says off of 8-track or a reel-to-reel player, check it out. It could have an entirely different sound to your ears and be kind of interest. So those were those. Next up, we have a VHS, which doesn't really represent the album Rumors, but it is the making of the album Rumors. So this came out around 96, 97. totally amidst the dance phenomena. Pardon me, we're at the 20-year mark for Rumors anniversary, and the dance had come out, and you heard me talk about it, the whole resurgence and interest of Fleetwood Mac, and really coming back around to this album. And so this was a classic album. This was shown on like VH1 and such, and it was just really talking about the process of making Rumors, all those parties involved, the different takes, the errors, the accidents. But we've all heard about the Jaws machine that ate several of the takes, several things being lost in mid production and such. And this is actually a pretty solid, one of the best, if not the best, really, frankly, documentary that doesn't involve the band so much. There are excerpts in here where the band talks, but with the narration going around a story, like somebody like me talking about it from the outside in, it's a really good cover. And yeah, this was a hugely popular buy. Like I said, it was on VH1, MTV, just really promoted and shown to relight and reignite the interest of Rumors, and also, like I said, to celebrate. Yeah, this did come out in '97 to celebrate the dance, also because it's just really kind of as much as the dance stands on its own. Of course, most of the songs that we're hearing off are from Rumors, and it's resurging that love of Rumors that everybody has and wants to feel again. They'd all come back together after breakups and everything like that. So it was a perfect time to really cash in on revisiting Rumors. So those were the VHS cassettes that I have from the Rumors era. I guess there really isn't anything else from Rumors era that's on a VHS. I don't know if again, you darn kids, how these work. I don't even know if you still have them. VHSs are actually pretty. Actually, I don't really have much to complain about on the quality and sound of these. The unfortunate part is that nowadays a lot of movies that are kind of obscure, that I don't know, maybe you remember as a child from the 80s and 90s, a lot of movies that are put on DVD, not on Blu-ray, but on DVD, are copied from VHS recordings, unless it's a full remaster, which then it usually becomes something that is on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, a lot of times, a stupid example, but a movie that I love would be the 1979 version of Dracula with Frank Langella. That movie got transferred from a VHS tape onto DVD for a quick release. I mean, there's just no fuss, no muss, just let's put it out there for Halloween or what have you. And it is just awful. It's muddy. It's hard to hear. It's dark. It's near impossible. Thankfully, it got a do-over, and finally somebody did it nice. They went back to the masters. It got transferred to a quality that TVs can now read. That is the problem with VHSs, is that even if you still have a VHS player attached to a current TV, which you absolutely can, they actually will still plug into current TVs. It's difficult, but they can. But the picture that is on this media flowing through and coming through your 4K or your 50-inch TV right now, it's not made for that. It's made for higher quality, better audio and video. And at the time, this media was the best. Well, it's not the best anymore. So it's only going to play as good as it can through your TV. If you have an older TV and an older VHS player, you're going to pop this in and it's going to sound great. So that's just from my lips to your ears. You take it or leave it. But that's what I think anyway. Next up on the Rumors trail. Now, this I was going to bring up. This was, again, when I talk about odd pieces of media. This is this came out in 2001. And I don't think this was the first time this came out on DVD. And I know that since then, there's been a Blu-ray release. I believe there's been a couple DVDs and I think one Blu-ray, or it could be there's one DVD and a couple Blu-rays. Anyway, This is on what they call SACD, which was Super Audio CD. So you couldn't put it in a CD player, it had to be a DVD player. And generally, your DVD player is going to have Pro Logic's surround sound, cinema, music. It's going to have a whole different, bunch of option, in your menu. Usually you have a 5.1 stereo surround system sometimes with it, or the DVD player itself will have that built into it. There are a million different things where you have a sound bar or something. But this was designed to be the utmost listening pleasure for roomers. I did do some research on this one just because even I was interested. I've listened to it and I'm like, okay, I mean, it sounds great. It's really nice. If you want to know more about it in verbiage I could never possibly comprehend or give you myself out of my own mouth, there is a write-up by a gentleman named James N. Perlman on Amazon review for this. And holy Jesus, that guy gives a 9-page thesis. Just kidding. But it's a long review for people that are into audio and really want a breakdown of, where it's at for the discerning ear, the super listener. And, it makes sense to me too, a little bit. About the only thing I can agree with them on and be on the same page with is that an album that I went over in my collection was a Rumors on Palace recording in Germany, which was on a 2 LP mixed at 45 RPM. That and this were in competition with best sound of Rumors at the time. So I believe that I don't remember what year that record came out. I thought the record came out later than this, but it might have. Maybe he just wrote the review later, and comparing them or something. I don't know. But then that's fine by me. I mean, if that's what he says, I'd probably just go listen to the vinyl anyway over this. I mean, this just seems silly. But this does on your TV have like a picture will pop up or something like that, and there's the menu and not only like photos or anything. Well, I mean, there's photos, but not like new things you haven't seen before, anything like that. It's it's nice. It's like a screensaver or something like that stays up while the music plays. The jacket inside is nothing fancy. It's just like the inside of of the album, except there's no fold out with all that collage of photos. Just the front and the back, and then the DVD itself. Now, what I will say about these, one is about to come out right now. There's just been word of one coming out for the White Album, the Fleetwood Mac album, which will be coming out August of this year. I don't recall if that was Blu-ray or DVD, but the point is it's going to be on a format like this for, again, utmost quality sound. And this came out probably for about $20 or $25 cost, which this says used, because I think that's how I found it. These things run for like $100+ right now. So, if you find one, and you find for anything under $100, I would probably grab it. These seem to be something that, again, is more for the audiophile, the more, I don't want to say snobby, because if any of you are watching and prefer it that way, that's not at all how I mean it. It's just, I think, really more about taste and, and if you want the best sounding, there's absolutely no reason not to. I just think it's fun getting it in all format because when I listen to it, I just want to listen to it. I know that when I listen to music in my car, I'm not getting the best sound ever, but I want to listen to jammed music in my car. When I'm in my house, I usually want to play my records, so it's not often I'll pop in a CD, but I have, and I've listened to it, and it does sound nice. But even I probably don't have the proper setting, the proper, DVD player, or the proper Blu-ray player, probably none of that. So I'm still probably not getting the best that this has to offer. But if you do, or you have a really nice system or something like that, this is something you definitely want to pick up. So that was that for kind of weird audio, again, something kind of different for rumors. So after rumors, we would have, gosh, what would we have had? We would have had Tusk, and we would have had the live album, stuff like that. So I could not find my Tusk VHS. You saw that I have the sleeve to it. It was in my number 4 binder, but I could not find my, we call it clamshell case, which I'll again talk about in a second. And that was unfortunate. I actually have no idea where that is. I know that damn cover is, but what I do have, which is, I think, pretty damn cool. And this is about, actually, this isn't as old as an 8-track, but this thing is just freaking gorgeous. These are laser discs. And laser discs came out in the late 70s. And, I don't want to say, again, could have researched it a little bit more. I apologize. Weren't solely made in Japan by any means, but I really think came to the forefront from Japan as a format and such. And the TVs and such and players that you used to have for laser discs was like having a freaking, this is like Scarface material. Okay, this is stuff that he had in his home. You had to get this giant TV. This was the way to go. Okay, this giant TV like we have today. Okay, but back in the day, people didn't have room and they weren't this thin and this big, your 50-inch TVs. No, this thing was like, the largest bookshelf or couch that you have in your room. Picture that, okay? And then it would have a screen here, okay, like this, screen here, and a console, generally. And in the back of the console facing the screen would be a red, blue, and a green light that would project the laser disc once put the player onto the screen. So it's kind of like having a little mini movie theater in your home, and it was freaking awesome. And you want to talk about sound? Like, I don't even know if they've made crappy versions. I just don't believe that there was ever a crappy laserdisc player and console to be had, which is why I don't think it really caught on. These damn things were huge, bulky, and expensive. And the laser discs back in the day, like this thing would have cost you $50 to $100. I think I'm pretty accurate about that. And who could spend that? Who could get a movie collection? When pardon me, when VHS first started coming to video stores like Blockbuster and your little local stores and stuff like that, renting them for like $3 a night was unheard of. Let alone buying them and having your own VHS player at home to, build a personal library. So getting a laserdisc player and laser discs to play was definitely rich man's luxury. It was, if you had it and you weren't especially what I call, that good on you, but in my opinion, it just was not something you saw in every home. It was very, very select, in my opinion. And I think maybe a lot of people by choice, also possibly because of the size and bulk. This I found at a record store one time, and I just about lost my mind because it's nice. It's a cool it's just cool as hell. And I'd like to frame it one day eventually. And this is funny. It was from a rental store in Lodi, California, which I find especially funny because I grew up in Stockton, which is not far from Lodi, Stockton and Santa Cruz, but Stockton. And I want to say I found this like on eBay randomly. And I thought of all the places it came from, I thought that was kind of funny. And there's a nice write-up on the back as well, which is probably why I wouldn't frame it. And then this bad boy, you would stick in this way into the machine. And you can't really see it, but it's not meant to be. But the machine would open this. You don't open this. It stays closed. And then a big ass CD is what it looks like, would slide out onto the player and be read by a laser, just like DVDs, like CDs and DVDs are read. but it would be the size of a regular 12-inch record. So this is from 1980, and this was the Fleetwood Mac, basically the Tusk documentary and concert. Um, it's a whole bunch of talk about them, and then amidst that somewhat of a documentary, they perform 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 songs, and not too many of them in full, but those are the songs they sing. Nice little stage shot, nice little write up. This needs some cleaning up, but and that's a little boo boo there, unfortunately. Might try and fix that. That might be fixable. But yeah, so that I just thought that was pretty cool. So that was my media from to between 77 and what's next I have 81. So that's what I have to fill that spot. So on that note would be next up we would have Stevie Nicks in concert. That would be the next thing that came out, and we'll start with the VHS for that. This first came out on the White Wing Dove tour. There was 9 songs I believe she did on this recording from her brief 10 stop or 10 tour date period of her life. Great show. You know it, you love it, you've seen it. I mean, it's phenomenal. I would have given anything to have seen those shows. This has come out in a couple different formats. I believe there's one with a different cover. There's actually quite a few foreign copies that are really lovely, with different covers. Really pretty. In fact, I thought I had one actually just right now thinking about that. Maybe I've just seen one. There were 16 songs performed on the tour, but only 9 songs made it to the recording, and the recording is only 1 hour. So I believe the concert itself would have been just a little over 90 minutes, maybe closer to 2 hours, possibly. And I think there's 9 tracks on this, and then there was another piece from it which was Leather and Lace, I think, and Leather and Lace became a video or something like that. It seemed like there was something live that was cut from this, but later used as a video, but that did go with the show, but wasn't shown on HBO. And I want to say this came out in 82 from the concert in 81. So there is that. My little tray fell over here. So then on that same note, this was recently acquired, and again, I just squealed like nobody's business to find this at a record store here in Portland. Funny story about this, which is the exact same thing as the VHS. I got this, and who's not going to buy this? It's like $10. Who cares? It's like this big picture of her. It's really pretty. I know I can't play it. It's who cares? It's just to have it. It's part of the collection. The picture's on the back. It just looks cool sitting up somewhere. And I take it up with all my records. And I think you guys have got to know me that I'm a pretty big record collector. I've been doing this a long time. And I went up to the counter to pay for this and all my records, and was mansplained to that how this isn't a record. This isn't a record, right? You don't want to take this home and try and put it. And I just, it was kind of a fight or flight moment. That's kind of the memory I have, because I just want to reach across and just like punch him in the throat and be like, do I look stupid? Does this look like a freaking record to you? But I didn't. I was nice. I'm here today, not in jail. But being told that, like I'm an idiot and this wasn't a record was just really he didn't mean nice. He didn't mean well. He just, thought he needed to let me know that this was a laser disc. So kids, just so you know, this is a laser disc, okay? You can't play. And yeah. So I just took it and smiled, and thanks for that, sir. So again, 1, 2, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine songs. It's the same thing. 1 hour, but yeah, just like the first one, I just love it looks pretty. It has a little bubbling, some marks on it, which is unfortunate. This is also out on, there's one other format this is on, like maybe a 10-inch. I want to say that Laserdiscs came out on like virtually 12. This might be a little bit bigger than 12, but I'm pretty sure it's 12-inch. But like maybe a little bit of the smaller Laserdisc, or I'm thinking of the I Can't Wait videos. But yeah, but for sure Laserdisc and DVD. Has not seen the light of, sorry, Laserdisc and VHS has not seen a DVD release yet. Apologies. So next we're going to go into Mirage, which would be next. And again, as far as oldest piece of media for that, I'm going to say it's going to be, again, the Laserdisc. Now, Laserdiscs, you'll see in a minute, did come out in different formats. You've seen so far the same format virtually. Different companies with different color. This and the Belladonna were the same one. They were put out by, I guess, no, they're all the same company. It's odd that this and the Fleetwood Mac one, the 1981, had a white case. I guess that was just a preference. But again, this was one that I just found out about in the wild and just super excited to get. Again, with the pictures in the front and back, a little write-up. I think these would look really nice framed up somewhere. They're nostalgic. They're cool. I mean, this thing is slightly bigger than a, so this is the size of a record. So record's 12 by 12. So I'm going to say this is 12 by 13, maybe about an inch more. So yeah, and I'm confident that inside the media is definitely a 12-inch size. But we'll measure that. We'll see, because I'm not even sure that I'm right, to be honest with you. But one does come out. It's different than these ones, and I'll show you that in a minute. So this is it for the Mirage Laserdisc. Next up for Mirage would be the oldest piece of media, would be the Beta. Now, again, kids these days, right? Everybody knows about a VHS mostly, but not too many people remember the Beta, Betamax, Beta, which is just a smaller VHS, basically. So there's a couple stories about the Beta and VHS wars. And my favorite one, which makes perfect sense, people say it's a little bit of an urban legend, but supposedly the Beta came out with the higher picture quality, but the format for about an hour max worth of good footage to make the quality as above and beyond as they could, which would make it, so if you went to go rent your average 1 to 2 hour movie, it would be on 2 Betamax, which, kind of sucks. Whereas VHS was a longer format, a slightly lesser picture quality, but you could get 2 hours, possibly more. And if you had a 3-hour movie, you could, definitely easily make that into 2, but then that would make 3 Betamaxes you would have to rent or distribute or purchase, which would make the costs high, which does make sense. The little urban legend that goes with Beta and VHS, though, is that what made VHS win in the Beta and VHS wars was the adult entertainment industry, being that they really pushed for VHS because they could get more adult entertainment on a VHS player, and adult material was selling like out the door, because VHS you could take to the privacy of your own home, as well as Beta, but VHS was definitely cheaper, more for your dollar, more bang for your buck. I'm sorry I went there. But yeah, there's just more, and that's supposedly what did win the beta and VHS wars. They say otherwise, and I'm sure there's more to it than that, but for the most part, that does kind of make sense. I mean, if I were building a collection again, let's say I had the money to do all those laser discs, and much like us music lovers who had to rebuild our collection with vinyl, 8-track to vinyl to cassette to CD, and now streaming or what have you. When you're rebuilding everything, or VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to 4K, we don't want to have three of these cassettes to make one movie that we like. We want it small and compact, like a VHS. And so, so that does make a little bit of sense. But this would be the oldest piece of, second oldest next to the Laserdisc. Now, for Mirage, the broadcast, this came out in 1983 from the broadcast. No, pardon me. This came out broadcast on HBO. It was a special from 1982. It was released on VHS and beta in 1984. When it first came out, I want to say that it was released at 60 minutes, but most of the material that I'm seeing says 80 minutes. I want to say that this one is a 60-minute performance, but I could be wrong. It does not say. But I did see on this actually says an hour and 29 minutes. This says 80 minutes, basically 80, 90 minutes. So yeah. So that's the only difference on this one. This came out, it was reissued on Laserdisc. There's a Laserdisc that came out of Japan in 83, and then it was reissued on Laserdisc again in 1988, not reissued in any other way as far as, like VHS or beta until, like, I guess recently. But I still don't think we have a full release now. I was just thinking that the other day. That one we just got recently, I think, is just audio, if I'm not mistaken. And everything that we get on the Laserdisc or anything else, it's not the order with which the concert was played. It's all out of order. I think when we got the audio, we finally got the full show, and we got the order with which it was recorded and played in. So there is that. Next up, again, still on the Mirage boat, is we have the VHS. This was a really weird VHS that I purchased pretty recently, actually. This is what we call a clamshell, which I'd mentioned earlier about the tusk. Generally, you would see like like I mentioned earlier with the belladonna, just a kind of a slip sleeve where it just slid out like that. But most things, how you'd rent them and or buy them would be this very heavy clamshell type thing. And it would just keep it really secure and heavy in case you dropped it or bounced it. But this release came out of Spain, Madrid, Spain. And it was like it looks to me like it was a reissue, or something that maybe came out a little bit later. And it came with this book, which I thought was really neat. And this will also be featured in when I do my book section. So I won't really go through it too much, but it was just a really neat book telling you about the show. And I guess there's a lot of details. It's in Spanish, so I can't exactly tell you. But yeah, it was a cool little package that came out together. And so I bought it, intrigued by the book. This is to keep, again, your VHS kind of lined up so it stays snug in there on those little hooks in there. If you put it in right, so it doesn't shake and bounce around, which is nice. So yeah, that was really a nice little feature for Mirage. Yeah, so that would be the Mirage stuff that I have. I do not have an American I do. I know I do. Somewhere. I have to. I think there's a couple things I'm missing, but or maybe I don't. But I know, of course, there was a VHS, much just like this one, same cover and everything like that, just slipped out. But it was the American release of the Mirage special. So there are way more things to show, so I think I'm actually going to cut this one out right now. We will continue with 1986 onward in my second video. I actually didn't realize that it would take this long in talking about the stuff, and hopefully, again, it's of interest. So we'll leave it at this one, and we'll catch right back up pretty soon with part 2 of Mixed Mac Media. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Bye.